Okay, guys, you're gonna have to excuse the shop at the moment. This shop is now 18 years old, and it has gotten pretty cluttered. Every time we finish a job, things come over here and get stored. We are committed to making that way nicer again for doing all the woodwork over here, the metalwork at my other garage. But phase 2 is the floor. It's only about 10 pages of the directions. It's effectively a big face frame. It calls for 1x4 and 1x6. I made it out of plywood because all the 1x4s and 1x6s at Home Depot sucked. They were all warpy and gross, and I just thought that plywood's gonna be a lot more stable. I'll get into everything about the way they want you to waterproof the bottom. I'm making a few changes from my own personal knowledge. Instead of using RV underlayment, I'm going to be using some marine epoxy and fiberglass, and then I'm gonna use Trimco, which is like what we use to waterproof ICF. It's a fantastic product made by the parent company of Nudura. Really, really nice product. So we're gonna be using that. Right now we got Keith over here. Hey Keith. He's been working on the face frame because I've been in a meeting. Got lots of cool stuff coming, which you guys probably already know about by the time you're watching this, with the pool company. And I've been in meetings all morning on that. But yeah, so the one thing's getting ready to happen in the shop, probably before this floor is even complete, is these old lights, the ballasts are starting to go out. They're 18 years old, and the lights aren't going very good anymore. I'm gonna get the floor. I'm not gonna epoxy it. It's not worth doing that, but I'm gonna clean the floor up and do a light colored, like a light gray concrete paint. And I have got 2 hex grids coming, one for this bay and one for this bay. We're gonna make this bright as can be. It's gonna be fantastic light to work in. We right now have 3 sets of cabinets to build. You guys know we're working on Suzanne's big project. We're building her cabinets. We're also doing the house flip. So first phase here is basically one thing I liked about the plans is that they are heavily promoting pocket holes as a construction method. So Keith has been cutting the face frame out, and I actually have a face frame over in this mess. I've got a nice Craig jig table or Craig jig machine over there, so we can do that really quick. It doesn't take any time at all for us. But you can buy the regular K4 or K5 jig for $100 and some. I will link that at least in the description for you guys, because you don't need to buy a $700 machine if you're not building cabinets just to do face frames for this. Obviously, we did opt to do the little storage place and the table. That's an option to the floor. I did it because I thought it would be handy to have a little table set up in here for extended stays, and if you're in cold weather, you don't want to sit outside to eat. So we're gonna have to build that box today as well. But yeah, so this is basically the beginning of it. Keith's gonna finish putting this all together, and basically you do this, and then you skin the bottom side with 1/4 inch, which we're using 5mm Luan, and then we've got 3/4 inch dowel board foam that will go in all of these spots, kind of thermally break as much as we can. We'll thermally break the floor, and that'll be the insulation. And then there's another skin over the top of that, and then it's effectively got like a 2x4 bumper on the front and the back that are cut on a certain angle that kind of creates the beginning of the tier and the end of the tier shape. So I'll get into all that, and this will be episode 2 of the Teardrop camper build. All right, guys, I'm on the last 4 screws here, the last piece. Basically, the face frame's got a middle piece that runs all the way down the middle, except for where the table and the recessed box, the floor box is. But this one here is offset, and I'm not positive why. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm guessing it's got to do with where the cabinets are placed, where they go, if you will. I'm guessing there's a divider of the cabinets that will, screw into solid, floor. But anyway, the next step is going to be putting that bottom piece of Luan on and getting ready to insulate it, and then put the top piece on. So we'll get into that. All right, it's good. Okay, guys, we've got a fairly liberal amount of glue, and these the pieces of Luan will cover about half. That's what you got, this 1x6 here in the middle that's basically made to break it here. You can dip it to me, I'll help. Okay. roughly right there. And I went and got a thing of 3/4 inch crown staples so they won't go through. And he's gonna staple the crap out of it. And then we'll actually cut out the floor box and put the other piece on the bottom, flip it over and insulate. So that's the next step. Okay guys, next step is to insulate. One of these knives where you can make them really long and you know they pop off can be really useful. But my first two pieces, I'm going to start with the biggest pieces first, and the biggest ones are 24 by 24 basically. So I'm just going to score them. And I've marked them already, 24 by 24, so that's going to burn up 1/4 of my insulation. It's a 4x8 sheet. I just cut off 2 feet. So what we'll do is we'll okay. It's got a film on it that will make it. So then I'm going to take these over here. And for the moment, I'm just going to set them, make sure that one fits. I'm not going to try to get them all stuck in there. I'm going to foam all this in. So now I'll measure my next 2 biggest ones, which are these 2, make those, and keep going. So we'll get all these in. This piece here has to cut out. This is my floor box. So we'll have to flip it back over before we glue this in, cut that out, then do the other. So that's what we're doing. So this is just an ultra simple process of measuring the openings and then cutting 3/4 inch polyboard to fit. You know, see, Keith's just marking it with a knife real quick, then using a straight edge and just cutting it to fit. Then we do use the foam gun, the Pro gun. It's linked in the description, and we foam it in. So it does 2 things. One, it kind of glues it in so it's not moving around. It also seals up any air gaps because we're fitting this kind of loose, maybe 1/8 of an inch all the way around it, just so we're not having to cram it in too bad. And then we just foam it in. So that's kind of the process. Very simple. Takes like 5 minutes. Very, very fast. Okay. My foam gun is acting up pretty bad, so I didn't really shoot a lot, but I used the Great Stuff foam glue. That stuff's pretty cool. If you guys have a Menards local, they actually usually carry that stuff in stock. Home Depot and Lowe's don't, at least at most locations. I'm not saying like yours doesn't, but it's really awesome stuff. It's Great Stuff Pro Series, but it's construction adhesive. So it's a low expansion, but real sticky and real stiff. So I foamed, it's all under here, and I foam around the perimeter and everything, and it's locked in really nice. And so the whole thing, when the foam dries, will be just one big rigid piece of foam and wood. So Keith's putting the first piece on. I'll get ready to foam this down, and then we'll cut out the square and build the bottom of the box. All right, guys, it's about 11:30. We started at 8 a.m. This the floor of the camper is done, except for the optional floor box and I guess I'm gonna call them bumpers, the wooden ends that kind of create the front and back shape of the teardrop, which we'll do after lunch. We're gonna break and go to lunch. Keith has been here with me, but he's basically been here the entire time working on it. I've been in meetings for the All3 Pools website and stuff all morning, and I've been on phone calls, so I probably got maybe an hour of help on this. So I'd say we've got about 5 hours of man hours on this, and then obviously by the time we're done today, we'll have maybe 8 to 10 total hours in on it. and then it'll be ready. We're going to do our own version of the waterproofing of the bottom side. We'll seal the top with the same marine epoxy. It's going to get a floor over it, so I just want something that's going to make it not absorb any moisture that got under it. But yeah, this is it. We're going to go to lunch, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so like the next step is to cut these two bumpers, like front and back, that kind of create the shape. Keith is over here working on getting them cut down to width. They're slightly different front and back, and then we'll turn the saw to those angles and get them cut. And one goes across here, the other goes across there. They give you two options: one where your Luan would come out over the edge, and the other where it doesn't. But I mean, I've only got 8-foot material, so this thing's 8 foot long. Doing it the other way would probably cost material. I don't see the point in it. I think it's good to just bring the bumper all the way to the top. Okay, so Keith has got the blade set on 18 degrees, and we're cutting this thing. It's got a 3/4 inch flat spot on the bottom, and then it returns upward at 18 degrees to 1.5 inches at the top. I need to get a new rip blade. This is actually one of my plywood blades that I don't really want to use for this, but it's just 2 cuts, so. And there we go. All right, so this piece here will come over here and go on like so. We'll attach that, and then we got a front piece too, and then all we got to do is. All right, so I'm mixing my Total Boat, which is a marine epoxy that we use a lot in the pool industry. It's a very, very nice product, very similar to West's Marine, but you can get it on Amazon. I will have that linked in the description. It's very handy for a million things, honestly. And I'm using some leftover, it's honestly just like 1.5 ounce fiberglass, which is very thin, very, very easy stuff. And if you guys have never done like marine work with fiberglass cloth, it looks super easy, and it is easy, but it's tedious and it's a little messy if you're not careful. Most of the time I would suggest wearing rubber gloves. I'm pretty good at keeping my hands clean when I'm doing this kind of work, but you can kind of see it snagging and stuff. At first, as you're flooding it, it will try to do that. Once you get a good patch flooded, and it's stuck down, it will do that less and less. So you can kind of see me just starting to spread the epoxy. But you'll notice that the fiberglass, as it becomes flooded with epoxy, it turns clear. That's kind of how you know you're done. You get all the air bubbles out and you make it turn clear. And it takes a few minutes. But basically, this is the process, and the epoxy soaking into the wood underneath and making it very, very waterproof. And the fiberglass is just protecting that. But after this coat, you will be able to feel the weave in the fabric. It'll kind of look like a weave. And so then you do another coat of Total Boat that they call the flood coat, which actually fills in all the weaves and just kind of makes it a nice smooth appearance that, for a boat would then be ready for gel coat. For us, we're just kind of done waterproofing it, and now we're going to use Trimco to protect that epoxy. So pretty easy process, just tedious, probably. Didn't take as long as it would appear here, because once I get rolling, I just mix up a bigger batch and sort of complete it. Probably took an hour. I don't remember. These videos are actually a little old now. As you guys are seeing this video, I will actually be on my very first trip in this camper. Okay, guys. So obviously I did it a lot different than the directions would have called for, but because I had marine grade epoxy, basically boat building epoxy and fiberglass laying around, I chose to do something I thought would be a little more durable than the typical RV underlayment. But and I can't really put a number on it because I don't have a lot invested in this. This was all leftover material from a job from several months ago. So the last step I'm going to take on the bottom is I'm going to use Trimco 160, which is, if you watch a video from a couple months ago about waterproofing foundations, this is the product that I like to use, the fluid applied waterproofing for ICF foundations, that I think is the best thing. And then again, for best practices, I put dimple board over it, but it is a fantastic sealant. Because epoxy, I mean, this thing's already waterproof. You could put this in the, it would float like a boat right now. But that said, epoxy is not good in the sun. It's not good exposed. That's why you gel coat a boat or eco finish a pool, because this is the same epoxy we use under our eco finish a lot of times. So it is, it's very, very durable from a waterproof standpoint, but it's not good in elements over time. So this trim coat is going to be my gel coat effectively. It's my top coat. It's also waterproof. So belt and suspenders. This is going to be my fluid applied. For now, I'm just going to go just over the edge. I'm going to sand the edges off because I've got fiberglass edge hanging over here a little bit. I'm going to grind that off. Then I'm just going to roll it over the edge a little bit until tomorrow when Keith gets back here. I'm going to have him help me flip it over, attach it permanently. And then we're probably going to put the sides on, which will be the next video. Sides and cabinets, getting the rest of the box built, if you will. But this is my way. Again, if you're factoring in numbers, so right now we have about $200 in plywood for the floor of this thing. I had 2x4s laying around, but if you had to buy them, that'd be another $10 or $12. I had this plywood for the cabinet grade 3/4 inch laying around as well. So I have almost nothing. I got about $200 in the plywood. You'd have another $100 in the underlayment, the RV, the plasticky underlayment that they advise you to use. If I use that, it'd be about another $100. So this material-wise, about $300. The floor of this build, I spent about 10 hours on in labor total, and that was mostly Keith. I was here helping him a little bit, but actually about 8 hours because 2 of the hours the sides of this thing are already built as well. So probably about another 8 hours on top of the 10 we spent building the trailer frame. So we're at about 18 build hours so far to get to the floor being done. Counting I'm factoring in what the 30 minutes I'm going to spend putting this on. So guys, yeah, I'll show you the end of this, and we'll finish this video up when I get it flipped over. Okay, so I've got everything ready to go for the Trimco. I blew all the dust off, and now I'm just going to roll on Trimco, just like I would do on a foundation. Very simple process. I did a couple of coats just to make sure I got very even coverage, and I know that this is going to be a very robust undercarriage. I'm not too worried about moisture infiltration with the epoxy. Basically, it's as waterproof as a boat, and then that Trimco is protecting that. So the other little detail I did was taking a Forstner bit and recessing where the holes for the bolts to bolt this thing down went. Much later in this video series, you'll see that I put a Renolit floor in here, and I didn't want the carriage bolts bumping up into my floor, so I kind of recessed those into the floor a little bit, as you can see, which simple process. Okay, guys, I've got the floor of the camper done. We actually can see we have the sides done too. We haven't cut the other door out, but we actually want to set the sides when the cabinets are built, so we're getting ready to build the cabinets and the sides in the next video. But just to kind of keep you up to date on the costs, the plywood for this entire thing and the foam was about $200, and then I had some caulking and some other stuff. All in was about $300 for the floor, the way I did it in this video. In addition to that, I had about 8 hours of labor total, and that was with paying a guy to come over and help me just so I can get it done. I was out doing other things, and that's 8 hours was for the floor and getting most of these cut out. We were kind of doing them at the same time. So realistically, you could probably do this entire floor and get it attached, waterproofed and everything in probably 5 to 6 hours of labor. But factor in 8, so we're like 18 for the whole trailer to this point, including the sides being done. So anyway, guys, stay tuned next week. We're going to put the sides and the cabinets in, and that'll be the next episode. And then we'll get going on the roof, the wiring, and I'll be honest, this thing's coming together a lot quicker than I would have expected. The plans are quite good if you take the time to understand them. One thing I thought is that this was going to not be as wide as this, because I measured it way down here at the bottom, and then it actually should be measured up here like 3 1/8 inch up, and then it was perfect. Like, just in my head, I laid in bed one night thinking, that's not going to work. Sure enough, it worked. The plans are awesome. Anyways, Keith's in there behind me getting ready to hit a saw, so I'm going to get off here. I'll see you guys next week.